Hi there, Trevor here from Double Bill Movies. Well, this is a slightly different kind of double bill. It's not a double bill franchise or Too True or anything like that. Just two films that are of the same kind of genre. And they are The Core and Deep Impact. Now, I hadn't seen The Core before, but once I saw it announced on 4K, I was like, I'm going to get that. Because I had been keeping an eye on it over the years and hoping to purchase it. Now, I do actually recall seeing some of it on the TV. So it wasn't completely alien to me, but you know, the story goes, something's clearly going wrong with the core of the planet, planet Earth. So we got to find a way of sorting it out, otherwise we're not going to survive. So, you know, right there and then it's very, very far-fetched, because I'm not sure we could actually get to the core in the way they do in the film, but hey, it's science fiction, so it doesn't matter, does it? Now, for the most part, I found the picture really good. The main sort of film elements of just the cast and whatnot doing their thing, the picture was really, really nice. All the detail was there. Where it did fall down slightly was some of the CG effects. So there's what was it called? Should have done this nearer the time, shouldn't I? There was this device, let's put it that way, which they wanted to use to help restart the core. And there was a big shot of this, and because it was so huge, and you got people on gantries, but they're really small because of the size of this thing, and it just looked like a sort of a high-level computer game from the 90s. So to me, that's how sort of the poor the CG was. But some of the sequences as they were going through the crust and then towards the core, I thought were really good. I really liked the way they used kind of an X-ray means to see where they were going. So they weren't looking through windows, they were looking at screens, and they developed this kind of X-ray. And of course, when it sees black, it means that there's nothing there. And of course, they come up to a point that's black, and they're like, oh, suddenly we're not going to be boring our way through anything. There's just going to be empty space. So that becomes a bit of a problem, because this is a very long ship that has all these means of boring a hole, and you know, sticking with that hole. But so yeah, that's quite a fun incident. There's some nice bits of humour. A lot of the characters don't make it, and then there's one scene where it's Stanley Tucci's character. He's kind of being left in the ship, divides into various pods, and that was the idea, was that they had these explosive, one for each pod, and once they got to the core, they'd go around, drop them off into different places. They would explode and blah blah blah, and that would set things going again. But things don't quite work out that way, as per usual with these films. And Stanley Tucci's character, he thinks he's the brainiest, he thinks he's the best, and he's been using a dictaphone to take down the experience of what they're doing, and they're saying, why are you doing that? So he gets left in this pod. Clearly he's not going to make it back to the surface, and he starts dictating into this thing, and then suddenly he realises, why the hell am I doing this? That's quite a funny little scene. Nicely put. And yeah, there's a great dynamic between the cast, I think. Oh dear, I must learn to take down actors' names. Let's see, does it say on the front? So yeah, Aaron Eckhart. I think that's Aaron Eckhart, isn't it? So he plays Two-Face in Batman Begins, doesn't he? Which is brilliant. I think he is a great role in that. But who else we got? Oh, Hilary Swank and Delroy Lindo. I think Delroy is great. He's designed the ship, and they say to him, "What's the ship? What's this material made out of?" And he says, "Oh, the name for this material has 27 syllables. He says, but I just call it unobtainium. So it's not the only film. What is it? There's some other films that use unobtainium as a substance. So that's quite cool. But overall, I actually quite enjoyed it. There was one thing that sort of bugged me. So they kind of give you a timeline of how long it takes them to get to the core, which to me I think is a couple of weeks or at least a few days. And there's like this operations room, like if they're sending a rocket to the moon, and you know, so they're in the operations room for a couple of days. But I didn't necessarily notice the clothing of anyone change in the operations room. So if it was a week, then that must have been a bit whiffy in there. But anyway, so then of course we come to Deep Impact. Now I saw this in the cinema in 1998, and I quite enjoyed it. This kind of leads me on to something else that I want to explore a bit more and do a video on a bit later on. And that is that also at this time there was another film of a very similar story released called Armageddon. And I think I saw them both at the cinema, but this was the one I was quite looking forward to seeing. To me, Deep Impact has a much more realistic look on the events that unfold. It's, let's put it way, if you haven't seen it, let's put it this way, that it's not as heroic as Armageddon, and I think that's more believable. Of course, they are heroes. What I mean is, you know, in Armageddon, the heroes they make it back and they lose maybe 2 people, but it's not really spoiling it and saying it in this one. No one comes back, but you know, now it wouldn't be called Deep Impact if one of the meteors didn't hit the Earth, and of course it does. Now I remember seeing that in the cinema, and the sheer speed of the, not only the shockwave, but then the tidal wave that's produced was just insane. And of course I watched this on my big screen, and the same thing happened again. It wasn't quite as impressive, I guess, because my memory of it was quicker. But still, when you look at the size of the Earth and the ground it covers in such a short space of time, it's very impressive. I like the way the story is put together on this. What's her name? Téa Leoni. Her character is a news reporter, and she picks up on something. She's trying to become an anchor, but they keep putting her back. And she picks up on something that a member of Congress, whatever it is, has resigned, and she's going after it because she thinks, well, it's a woman. So that's the story she goes after. Turns out Ellie means something else. So she does get the job of anchor. She gets the job of covering the attempt to stop this meteor hitting the Earth. And Morgan Freeman plays the president, and I think that's great. And my brother reminded me that within the space of a couple of years, Morgan Freeman went from being in jail in The Shawshank Redemption to being the president here, and then playing God in was it Bruce Almighty? Something like that. So what a career he's had, hey. But yeah, so back to Deep Impact. There is a very young Elijah Wood in this. The name of the meteor comes after 2 scientists, and he's one of them. He's not really a scientist, but they don't know that when they name it. Yeah, I kind of had quite a bit of nostalgia for this, having seen it at the cinema. Now the picture as a 4K, it was really, really, really impressive. I have to say that to me this is almost reference quality. No, it is reference quality. If you want to see how good your system is, the detail, especially the actual scientist or astronomer, should I say, that uses his big telescope when he's eating his pizza and everything, and the camera's on the side of his face. The detail in his face is incredible and just so lifelike, and the lighting and everything. It's a very sort of soft colour palette. It's not, you know, mega bright colours and everything, but it doesn't need to be. I love the colour palette on this, and like I said, the picture was just incredible, and actually the special effects did hold up to me kind of better actually they did in the core, and I think the core came later. So but I think I find it was Industrial Light and Magic that did the special effects for this, and you know, they're pretty good at special effects, aren't they? So anyway, there you go. There's a double bill. Two sort of disaster movies, and one a little bit more science fiction than the other. I hope this never happens. Well, I hope that never happens, but you know, I hope this never happens. We're struck all the time by meteors and various things, and of course there has been one that took out the dinosaurs, so there's no saying there couldn't be one that takes us out, and we won't be able to do nothing about it necessarily. But you kind of can't watch too many disaster movies in one go because they get a bit depressing. I've got 2012 down there that I would like to watch, but I think I might wait a little while. And actually I wouldn't mind watching Armageddon again on my big screen. So there you go. Give the video a thumbs up, please. Let me know if you've seen either of these films. Did you see them in the cinema, either of them or both of them? How do you compare them, especially with The Core being a slightly newer film? And do you agree with me on the special effects looking a bit rubbish in places? I think most of the ship going, you know, through the Earth's crust and then towards the core, I think did work out very well. Just some of the other effects look pretty poor. So anyway, before I start rambling, take it easy, and I'll see you soon.